Bleeding toenails and blistered heels, saw stains streaking down my face. Sun is beating, muscles scream, but I'm moving at my pace. Run the riot! Leave the world behind! Run the riot! You free your body and your
All right, today on the Run the Riot podcast, I get to talk to Angela Smith, who just smoked Prairie Spirit. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. We had some technical difficulties before getting on here, but we are here.
Just thankful I've got an IT guy right.
Yeah, nice. We're pretty helpful to have around, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually the one that's trying to figure out the simplest things. I'm not too tech savvy, so I mean, hey, this worked, so we got through it.
Yeah, but you run fast, so you know.
It evens out.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses, you know?
True, that's true.
Well, Angela. So we're, we'll kind of start from the beginning a little bit. So I just had to point out, I was thinking back, we met, and it may have been your first ultra. I don't know, but 2022 Prairie Spirit 50 mile. That was your first ultra, right?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, and we shared a few miles, and I just remember that, and I don't know. I think maybe we got friends on Facebook after that or something. I don't know, but I just remember we shared the miles. I was cruising along, running it with a friend, and I remember you were having a tough time for a little bit, but then you went ahead and just like crushed the rest of it. So it couldn't have been that tough.
I learned a lot about sodium that day. I thought I could just run that 50 miler like it was another marathon, and I started out too fast, and I only fueled with gels for the most part. So I was cramping pretty good the back half, and man, that was rough.
It's amazing that I don't know. Sometimes we take it lightly, or the things we worry about are the things that we shouldn't worry about, and the things we don't worry about are things that, oh crap, I should have worried about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that one was crazy. I remember we shared it was I think it was Garnett actually. It was like you and three others I was running with. It was a pretty good crowd for a while, and then we just kind of figured out where we were going from there and took off. So
Yeah. That was a pretty fun one. I was running with one of my buddies. It was his first mile, and I was like, yeah, we'll just stick together because I was just kind of doing it. It was training, and it was fun. We ran with him the whole 50 miles. And then we shared miles with a few other people. We got to visit, on the trail. I don't know. It's one of the fun things with racing. Like you meet people and you become friends, and you see them at other races, and then you end up on a podcast with them.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened. I mean, except I've known you for 3 years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I've made so many friends just out of the running community within here in Kansas City and just everywhere. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. So are you originally from Kansas City area?
Yeah, I grew up in Olathe, Kansas. Okay. And now my husband and I live in Pagola, which is about 31 minutes away from Ottawa, roughly.
Okay.
So made it super convenient just to drive in and drive out this past week. So
yeah. Nice. You well, a lot's happened since 2022, but let's even rewind even before that. So have you you're 27, right?
Yeah, I'm 27. I just turned 27 actually a few months ago. So
okay. Have you always been a runner? Is that something you did in school and stuff?
I mean, I was active as a kid. I was homeschooled most of my academic upbringing. I got a GED, found my way in with utilities, and then just I became a stay-at-home mom after my husband and I got married and just started rolling. But as far as the running part goes, funny enough, parents and I lived kind of by where a race course was. It was the Olathe Garmin Marathon. I just remember seeing signs everywhere. And then I'd see people out running. I'm like, man, there's people of all shapes and sizes doing this, and they're just having fun. Look at all those aid station tables. Look at all that food. Yeah, I want to do that. So
Yeah, kind of like that.
I signed up on a whim for my first marathon. I was 18 years old at the time, and this was 2016. And I had a goal to break 4. I hit 4:19, but I was just happy to have finished. And I got second in my age group, so I mean that was just icing on the cake.
Yeah. That's yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things you just like, oh, I think I want to do. Had you done any like other races like 5Ks and 10Ks or anything like that? You just do a marathon. Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Nice. How was your training for it? Did you go through a training thing, or you just kind of went up?
I just kind of went with the flow. I mean, I just went out there and ran. I think maybe 15 miles was probably my max, 15 to 20. I can't even remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
But I think 15 to 20 was my max. And then, I had read some things online, but I never really did some full on research as to like how to run a marathon. I didn't research the course and, got killed by a few of the hills, but had walked some. But, it was to be expected. I just wanted to finish. I feel like with everybody doing their first time race, all they want to do is just see that finish line.
Yeah.
The sights and sounds and the cheers.
Yeah. So you said you homeschooled. Did you homeschool like all throughout? I'm just curious because like we homeschooled my kids who are grown and moved out or whatever. We homeschooled them for quite a bit. They ended up graduating, but we did it for quite a while. How was that growing up? I mean, how was it something you liked, or was it something like you were kind of like, oh, I got to be homeschooled? Like, well, how'd you like that?
It was a little bit of both. There was I definitely miss being able to participate in like extracurricular activities, That's, that was just kind of beside. The education was great, I felt like, but then there was that lack of socialization and, that kind of loneliness and just not being able to really participate in extracurricular, which, it's fine, because, we're there to do school, but then like, if you want to do a sport or something.
Yeah. Do you have brothers, sisters or anything, or?
Yeah. So, I've got 3 sisters. I've got 5 brothers. So there's 9 of us. So we're actually quite the.
Oh, wow. So family get together. It's like, it's a herd. Where do you fit in there?
I'm the 4th. So, there's 3 of us that are married. My older sister, and then one of my older brothers. And then, the youngest is actually what is he now? I think he's like a sophomore in high school. I mean, he's still in school.
Okay. Wow.
Again,
okay. So
oldest and youngest is like 17 years or something like that.
well, I mean, that used to be pretty common, but people don't have, families that like that nowadays. Now, were all your siblings for the most part, like, were you all homeschooled at some point or other, or how did?
For the most part, yeah. Except I want to say after, ultimately they just started going to public school because it was too much on my mom to homeschool. And, they
That's
started
the whole class.
They started getting into wrestling. They started getting into football. They started, getting into those extracurriculars, which, they make, it's good. They're doing great in them. So, I'm happy for them and, they're doing real well.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. And my daughter now, one of the things, one of the reasons, people homeschool for different reasons, for education, for, spiritual reasons, convictions and things like that. And that was part of, before. My daughter now goes to Christian school where we are. And it's a great, because she's getting a good, solid education. We know what she's being taught in all the things. And, but like, she had a track meet today and she just, won the 100-meter, 200-meter. She got 4 gold medals. So she's getting to participate in those things too, while she's, getting a good education. So it's a hard balance, I mean, talk about socialization. When you were homeschooled, you got brothers and sisters, you get a lot of socializing with all of them.
See that they kind of made up for it. I guess what I was saying, like there was no individual socialization like outside of the family dynamic, but at the end of the day, we had each other to play with and, just hang out with. And, we were the best of friends, worst of enemies at times.
Yeah. I know the feeling. I have a brother. We were just like that. Yeah. Like we kill each other, but then we, stand up for each other too.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that, about you. That's pretty awesome. And so how old were you when you got married?
I was, oh gosh, this was like right before the shutdown and everything.
Okay.
So I had just turned 22. So this was January 2020. Uh, yeah, I made it in the nick of time, bought a house, and then everything shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how did so I remember meeting your I think in 2022 I met your husband out there just I think he was crewing you or something or at the finish or I remember meeting him.
Every mandate station.
Yeah, yeah. And so how did you guys meet? Just curious.
So we were actually going to the same church, just not going to the same mass. We were just going to different mass times. So we kind of met through there, and one thing led to another, and we got engaged about a year after we started dating, and then got married about 8 months later. So yeah, we met in 2018, and we kind of drilled it down to like, okay, what are your values? What are your
Mhm.
values? I mean, obviously our hobbies are our hobbies, and yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of worked out. And it's been 5.5 years, and been blessed with 2 kids and more. So I'm happy.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And people meet spouses at bars and stuff like that. What a great place to meet your spouses at church, man. That's where that's what I tell people when they're out, trying to find somebody. I was like, just go to church. They got.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as simple as asking, do you want to go out sometimes? But I get that's not how it goes for everyone. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. That's awesome. So how does he you started in I guess, you ran you did more marathons before you decided to do a 50, right?
yes, I funny story here. I was actually supposed to do a marathon in 2018, but I went out a I went out on a long run at Prairie Spirit in March, and somebody from Mile 90 just started taking pictures of me. I had no idea what the heck was going on. I was just going on a long run for marathon.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing, I didn't want to look like an idiot on their website. So I ended up doing an unofficial 50K that day. Just like, yeah, we did a super long run. I didn't end
So
up doing
you
a marathon the following week.
nice. So you were out doing a long run. It ended up being during the race. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so I mean, that was when I discovered ultra marathons. It was just by pure accident. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Nice.
Didn't want to look like an idiot, so I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Just kept
jumped in.
running. That's awesome. I don't know what it is about Prairie Spirit. So my wife, I joked around like she's like, it's so flat out there. I don't want to like she said, if you need me, I will come crew you and stuff, but I just don't want to. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I got it. I got it. I did drop bags because every time I've raced out there, I've just gone by myself. Even when I, won 100 miles, whatever, I just go and do it. And I'm like, I'm fine. I can handle it. And because she's like, okay, but I love that trail. I don't know why. Like when we were driving up, when you're driving along, well, coming from Oklahoma, we're driving along the trail and you can see it, and I'm like, oh, I get excited, like, oh, I'll be running on there tomorrow. I don't know, it sounds silly, but I just like it. It's simple. It's crushed limestone.
Oh yeah.
It's
Fell in
I
the
don't know.
tree, and you get kind of a little bit of everything. You get woods, you get creeks, you get prairie, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful. I mean, a friend Jenny called it a treadmill with wind, so I had to really tune that out.
yeah. Shut up. Tell me that I'm gonna get negative. That's funny. That's good.
It turned out to be one going outbound for quite a while. So with that headwind we had,
Oh man. So every time I've run before, I did 100 there twice before, and the wind was always when we turned around. And it wasn't too bad both times I did 100 before. You turn around to the 50, and I was like, now I got to run in the wind. I'm tired, and this was the first time for me doing 100 that we're running into the wind, and I was prepared for it because I looked at the weather and I was like, oh, okay, there's that. So but we had it at our back. When we turned around, so that was good.
yeah, no, I was very thankful for that. I I was pretty rough. 40 Colony to Iowa and back to Colony.
Yeah, yeah. Let's Yeah. So rewind a little bit. You did the 50 mile out there. You learned, and you actually talked a little bit because you said something about like I learned about sodium. Like I learned how to do how to do this thing. And so you had a plan. So I was kind of watching. I don't know, since we follow each other on social media and everything else. I was watching your times and seeing you working out, and I'm like, I told you this, but I was like, I was like, man, she's going to do really well at this race because you were familiar with it. You had been out there before, and now I know you even trained on it during a race and stuff. So you're very familiar with it, but you were putting in a lot of work. I saw your times, I saw the distances you were putting in, and I was like, if it all comes together now, anything can happen on a 100 miler or any ultra, this because, well, you even came out for 100K before that didn't work out real well, right? What happened during that 100K? What year was that? That was 2023. What
Yeah.
happened then?
So I discovered in my peak week of training for that 100K that I was pregnant.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I
I
was
forgot about
like,
that.
well, I want to race this. I'm already in peak shape. Let me go try. But if I'm getting some weird, unusual symptoms that I have never experienced before in a training run, I'm just going to call it. So, I mean, my right groin started messing with me about 30 something miles in, and I couldn't shake it after a few miles. I'm like, you know what? We're going to pull out.
Hmm.
I don't like to do this. I like to finish races strong, but I also had Boston 3 weeks later and wanted to do that.
There you go. So you did Boston more pregnant than when you went out for the 100K. Yeah.
I mean, it was a miserable day though in Boston. It was raining, it was cold, and I I got a BQ at Boston, so I mean, I was happy with that. It was far from my goal time, but it
Yeah.
worked. Baby was safe, all good.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. I did Boston in 2015, and it seems to be like I want to go, and I've qualified again and planned on going back. It's just so expensive and things that
Yeah.
to go back. And I it was like in the 40s and raining the whole time when I went, and I was like, it'd be nice to go back and get some nice weather because those violent shakes afterwards. When you like,
Yeah, that's what
I never
that's
shook.
what I had it in 2023. I was shaking like crazy, and somebody was
Yeah.
helping me trying to get on the bus. I'm like, man, I'm so cold. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. This isn't good. I'm pregnant.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh man. So,
Yeah.
well, so you had the baby, everything's good, and you decided, this is going to be the year to come back and do Prairie Spirit. And so one of the things I liked watching with your training, because my daughter did the same thing when she trained for her first ultra, and she came do it in Independence, Kansas, but like pushing strollers, man, yeah, she did Flat Rock. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so she's, running, and you got a kid and you got to bring the kids with you. So she's just pushing strollers and running. And okay, so I have to say, like, you got some good times pushing strollers. Like you've been cruising along pushing those things, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's that added weight and then just getting used to it over time, it just kind of becomes second nature. Like, I've raced with a stroller. I don't do 5Ks anymore because they just end up making people mad because I usually place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not there for the negativity. I'll pick another race to do. I just don't like doing 5Ks with a stroller.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But you end up doing, how many training runs in a week do you end up doing with a stroller?
I'd say usually about a third to sometimes a half of my runs are with the stroller. Obviously I
Yeah.
don't do the really big long runs with them because I'm not gonna let my kid get a sore butt. I'm not gonna let him watch TV for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I usually limit them to about an hour and a half. So some days I'll do 8 miles, some days I'll do 10 to 13, and
Yeah.
we make it work. And if they're not having it, it's fine. We'll stop, I'll go back, I'll pick up later, and life happens.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. It's one of those things where, we do this thing and we want to do it well. And like you've probably heard me say before, I believe God's put in us a potential and we're trying to mine this potential and we want to do the best we can.
sure.
You know, I know from seeing a lot of your posts and you know things that you said, you're you know believer and you have a strong faith, and so I don't know. This part, I kind of one of the reasons I do what I do is as an act of worship, you know, and
Oh yeah.
but we're also parents and we're also you know husband and wives and so those things are the most important, and so we got to balance it all, you know, and so it's you know there's nothing wrong with you know
Yeah.
prioritizing your kids and your family. That's a good thing.
Right. And I think it kind of comes down to, how much for me that it kind of with this past training, it kind of came down to, okay, I need to get my values in place. I need to see what percentage, what do I value most? And then just kind of make a pyramid out of it. Each little slot in that pyramid gets time. So, for me, it's like, okay, my marriage, seeing okay, okay, our kids, friends, family, and then my animals, whatever. And, then obviously I've got training. I got to take care of me, I got to make time for me. And, I guess I guess what's tricky is trying to find, how do we balance that all out? How do we make a game plan to make it all work without making one of those values compensate more
Yeah. Yeah.
for the guest?
How old are your kids now?
So, Vivi, Genevieve, we call her Vivi. She's
Yeah,
4.
that's cute. And that's cute.
And
I
then
haven't heard that one. I like it. I like it.
wanted something a little unique, and yeah.
Yeah.
And then my son Ian, there's 2 Ians. I got my husband Ian and then son Ian. They're It's
Okay.
not a junior, but
Yeah.
he's 1. He just turned 1 a few months ago. So
Okay. All right. So I mean, just having toddlers around the house, man, that keep you busy.
yeah, I mean they're their own workout, and it's nice. It's nice that I can push a single or a double from time to time and just kind of get that time in by myself, but also I can keep an eye on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Are your Saturday mornings a lot like I don't know, because like you know Jennifer's home, and so like okay, she's got the house thing, so Saturday morning it's long run time, you know, and that's kind of you know kind of the compromise, you know, things we do. Like when you wake up, I'm gonna be gone, and I'll be home around lunch. You know, it's like gotta go run.
That's pretty much how my day would go. I mean, I don't like running in the dark for safety reasons unless it's Prairie Spirit and it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, I would get started right as the sun was coming up, when there was enough light outside, and then I'd be back right around 11 or noon some days. And yeah, and then I would get home, I'd take the kids, Ian would go off and do his hobby, and we just kind of communicated, just kind of kept each other mentally sound, and yeah, it
Yeah,
worked out. I'd
yeah.
have to watch the kids after running like 20 miles and pretend it was nothing, but I was happy to do it. I felt
Well,
like that actually contributed to the overall training. I'm like, I'm still having to do this on tired legs, so I'm doing something right if it's all going well.
yeah, that's I was gonna say that because you know 20 miles is just part of what you're gonna be doing anyway. So you know, and you got to stay up, you got to stay awake. You're tired, and it's training. Yeah, motherhood or just parenting is ultra training.
Gotta go nurse the baby if there's anything there.
Yeah. So your husband Ian, I mean, he's you know he seems very supportive of this of your hobby, and I mean, you, you obviously you're and you're good at this. You know, you obviously have a gift to, and you're doing well with it. And you know, I'm telling you this. I'm not it's not you know, but you've done it. You've done great. I mean, and
Thank
so
you.
it's nice to see that, and hopefully you know he sees that. Hey, you know, my wife is awesome at this, and you know, and he supportive because I would like to see you. I mean, it's you guys' decision, but I would like to see you do some other races and see you continue to mine that potential because you did fantastic. And I want to unpack the race a little bit and see how you think it went. But anyway, like you know, kudos to our spouses
Right.
for supporting us because we can't do this without their support.
Absolutely not. I mean, I and kind of going, and before I signed up for this, we talked quite a bit. I'm like, are you okay if I do this? I can make a mock-up plan of training, what that's going to look like, what that's going to entail. I kind of showed him what my idea of what I was going to do was going to go, and he was okay with it. We just kind of made a point to check in with each other and, made sure everything was fine. all good. And, I think that initial communication just kind of set the stage for really how the training and the success went, because without that communication with him and trying to make sure I had my values in place, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
When it's like, putting up ahead of time, look, this is what it's going to look like. Can we do this? This is
Right.
a us deal. I'm going to be doing the running, but it's going to take us.
Yeah. Maybe a few grandparents here and there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll call in reinforcements when we need. No, that's helpful. So, so one of the things I noticed too, and I got to meet your strength coach, and so you devised kind of your plan, and you pulled in a strength coach, and I got to meet him. Seemed like a great guy, and I saw some of the things you were doing, the exercises and all that, and so I mean, you held things together. So, I mean, it worked and did well for you. And, a lot of people don't like to do strength stuff a whole lot. They just want to run.
Either.
You what?
I didn't either until I got into the swing of things. I started realizing how much better I felt after run than, how much stronger I was. And, it kind of helped with paces too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And funny enough, he had never coached an ultra runner before. He was like, he had maybe he coached less than a handful of endurance athletes. So like all this was kind of new to him.
Yeah.
So I came to him, I'm like, can you just strength coach me for 100 miles? And he said, yeah, let's go.
So how did you meet him? Wait, what's his name again? I can't.
Cam Ridley.
Okay, Cam Riley. So yeah, did you know him from before?
He's a friend. He was a friend of mine's strength and conditioning coach in college. He's actually from Alabama.
Okay.
So she went to college in Alabama and he coached her for strength and conditioning. And then they've kind of been in touch more or less since then. And, I approached her. I'm like, hey, she introduced me to him. And yeah, that's kind of how we got connected. So one thing led to another.
That's cool. That's pretty amazing. And then he, drove out to meet you and to crew you at the race, which is fantastic.
I didn't ask him. He just said, I'm going to crew you. I'm like, you sure? That's a long way. He's like, I'm going to be driving. You're going to be running longer than it's going to take me to drive there. I'm like, oof, don't run.
Yeah, don't say that. So had you met him in person before he showed up to crew you?
Packet pickup.
Nice.
I just gave him my nutrition plan. I gave him all this stuff. I'm like, you good?
Well, people who haven't, so he did, I saw him at a lot of the aid stations and stuff, and he seemed to do fantastic. And he must have done his homework, because like, if you don't know, if you haven't been around it, it's not easy to crew. Prairie Spirit's an easy one to crew because of the out and back nature, and it's easy to get to the aid stations, and parking great. All the things are great compared to a lot of races. But like, I don't know. Like, some people just don't know what they're getting into until they do it. And it seemed like he did pretty good.
Yeah, he race day came. He's like, this is awesome. I like this.
Well, he was excited when I saw him at, did I meet? No, not Packet that morning. Yeah, early that morning, when I saw him, and he just seemed excited and ready to go, and like ready to witness the carnage or the feats.
No, he was trying to walk me through some mental stuff and, just kind of, what to do if I'm in a rut mentally during the race. And, he was real good about that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, he even snuck some carbs in some extra carb stuff in my drink. At one point, he's like, she's not drinking enough. I'm gonna sneak some more in there.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, he was a guardian angel for sure.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, so you went through, you did look like you had a fantastic training block. You did strength work, looks like your training, everything I saw was great. Were you feeling healthy coming into the race? Were you feeling like, I've done what I physically can, given everything,
Yeah,
and I'm ready to do this?
yeah, I had some. I mean, I always, I had pre-race nerves, but I mean, overall, I was like, I kept telling myself, I have no reason to be nervous. Everything I've done the last few months has been focused on this one thing. I can't think of anything else I need to be doing right now.
Yeah.
Like everything just kind of went together. I had practiced so much. Nutrition was practiced months in advance, and all those long runs, pacing, and
Yeah.
trying to figure out logistics and all that. I was confident. I had a lot of support behind me, and I knew it was.
Yeah. Well, that morning, when I saw you, whatever, you came, I could tell, you were trying to figure out how you were nervous, and you came in. I was like, I mean, I was just trying to encourage you. I was like, I saw you training. You got this. I think you're good. And then the hard part, one of the stupid things that's so tough, and like how to dress at the beginning of a race when it's cold and it's going to be windy, and like do I don't know. And so I know you were cold at first because you had short sleeves on, and I was cold with long sleeves on.
Freezing. My hands were like stuck to the bottle. I couldn't move my fingers. I thought I was gonna get frostbite. I'm like, this sucks. I'm 15 miles in. My hands are still frozen. It's gonna be feeling like I'm gonna have pine needles down them in a few minutes.
Yeah, but once the sun comes up good, and it was good, I ended up changing and tying my thing around my waist. But anyway, I don't know. It's I was laughing at not laughing, but I liked the picture at the starting line when we're all standing up there, and like all of our expression. Pete Kostelnick's right there about to crush the course. I mean, just smoke it, and I saw him, he looked like a metronome anyway, and we're all just standing up there smiling before hours and hours of time on feet, and I don't know, I like that. I like the before picture, and then the after picture, it's like I've been through some stuff.
Oh,
So what was going through your mind? We're standing there at the starting line, you've done all the training, and we're standing there all cold, ready to go. What's going through your mind?
don't mess this up. Don't start
Yeah.
out too fast, because
Yeah.
I mean that's something I had to really reel in, was just starting out too fast. Because when I like to race, I like to go. I like to shoot.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, it's an ultra. It's 100 miles. It's a lot can happen in the next 15, 20, however many hours you get it done.
Yeah.
So I was, that was going through my mind. And then just to kind of stay focused on getting to one aid station at a time, taking little pieces, taking little bites of the race, and not trying to eat the whole race at once. So
Yeah.
just learning to work through the race and with it, and not, like I said, take a bite of the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was your fueling plan for Prairie Spirit? What was, what was your plan? How are you going to fuel?
So it kind of original plan was somewhere between, if memory serves me well, 70 to 90 carbs per hour. And then my sodium intake was going to be a little over 800 milligrams to about 1200 milligrams per hour.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I stuck with.
Yeah.
And all I had, so I would have my goo Roctane Relight mix in one hand. I would have plain water in the other hand. And then I would just take sips of water in between. I would just try and fit little sips of water in with the goo Roctane mix. And I actually, knowing it was going to get hot, I pushed water early on just because I didn't want to get dehydrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, we can suffer through this extra bathroom trip if it means I'm not going to be dehydrated later on and, suffering. So, I did that, and, I always carried more with me. So I had precision gels, I had UCAN gels, and, every aid station I opted for something savory just to kind of get that sweet and savory mix going, and kind of switch it up, keep my stomach good. Yeah, that was essentially what my feeling plan was.
Yeah. No, that's good. So you were doing the kind of the goo Roctane mix. That was kind of like your base calories. And then you would do some of those, the kind of gels again that you said?
Precision. I think it's what it's called. And then the
so.
UCAN.
And then, okay. So and then you would supplement with those along the way. Okay. Stupid question. Because I always wear a pack. You got the bottles in each hand. How do you open the gels when you got a bottle in each hand?
It's talent and practice.
Okay. I guess I don't practice that. You just yeah, which okay.
Lie down and
No, all good. I was just wondering because I never just if I carry a bottle, it'll just be one. I've never ran, with both bottles. I usually just throw on a pack or something, or a waist belt that I can put a couple bottles in or something like that. But I was just curious.
no, I tried. I had done the best in every other ultra race I did before then, and I just noticed after about 50 miles in, sorry, excuse me, after about a 50K in of wearing that vest, it just got heavy.
Yeah,
So, okay, let's do the handhelds. It's going to be so much easier to fill these things up.
yeah,
And, I'm pushing a stroller throughout training anyway, so it's like I'm pushing weight anyway, so, it can't make too much difference.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
worked out well.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it worked great for you. And somebody asked me the next, I don't know, next Monday at work or whatever, like, are your legs sore? I was like, dude, my shoulders are sore. It's like everything's sore. Yeah, exactly. So, everything's sore as I'm wearing a packs. But no, but so I mean, your fueling plan seemed to work well. Now you talked about going out fast. So we went out. I went out a little too fast. I give myself a few miles to run out. And you were with us a little bit, and you said something like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this," and you backed off, which
Yeah,
which was smart.
low 7 pace. I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
This is not kudos to you for sticking to your plan because we all felt good at the beginning. Yeah,
I mean, I went a little off it, just with the nature of what happens in a race, there's always something that's going to go wrong, whether it's big or small. So, yeah.
yeah. And then we're cruising along. You kind of backed off a little bit. I remember I Pete was kind of kept him in sight for a while, and then I was like, oh, you know, I don't remember. Do you remember what mile you kind of caught up? I slowed down, kind of settled into a long pace or whatever, and then you came up on me. I don't remember what mile that was. It's probably, I don't
20,
know, 30,
21, I think, because it
maybe.
wasn't too much longer before we hit Garnett, which was 24 and three quarters.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We both were at the aid station for a little while. Yeah, and yeah, and then you took off. No, and so you looked great. You looked comfortable. You were settled in. You looked strong.
Cam
I
stretched,
my you what?
stretched me out in Garnett. He's like, "What do you need? What do you need?" I'm like, "Can you just stretch me out?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, let's go."
Nice, nice. And I think it was then I settled in a little bit. My knee I was feeling it a little bit. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just settle back or whatever. And you said, we talked about this online a little bit. You said something, got some KT tape if you need it. And I was like, thanks. We'll be all right. I think, and then you took off and then I was watching your KT tape flap in the wind that was on one of your knees. I was like, I don't know. I don't want that KT tape.
I didn't actually put that on. That was a chiropractor that did. I had some extra TLC during taper week, so
Okay, okay,
it
got
was
you,
a little.
got you. It just made me laugh though, because you took off, and I was like, oh, cool, she doing. I think that KT tape's just flapping in the wind. It's like it's not doing real good right now.
I saw those pictures of it flapping. I'm like, man, that's embarrassing.
Anybody that's ever worn KT tape, it happens. It's all good. So yeah, so he stretched you out, and then how did from there to the turnaround at 51.25 miles at Iola? How did that stretch go from that next, I guess, 30 miles or so? Uh, was it pretty smooth sailing? Did you hit any low spots? How did it go?
So right about the time I got to mile 40, I want to say right about the time I got to Colony. I mean, I was getting tired. Things were I was starting to really feel some things. It was perfect because Mimi, who paced me for for the 41 to 61 section, I met her right there in Colony, and she just got me through that.
Mm,
And that was probably the lowest I had ever been throughout the race. A lot
yeah,
of dead silence in those miles, but it was great because all I had to do was just follow the lead, follow
yeah,
her lead
yeah.
and like, take the reins and keep going.
Yeah. When I saw you, so you turned around and I was still maybe a couple miles from the turnaround or maybe more when you were coming back. And I saw you, and I always say hey or whatever, and I could tell you look on your face, you were struggling. You still look strong, but I could tell, you had that struggle look on your face.
Yeah.
You weren't smooth sailing at that point.
I mean, I got to Iola and I was laying on my stomach in the grass and I just wanted to fall asleep. I took a little too long there. Looking back,
Yeah.
I had my watch going the entire time. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was not so good. So,
Yeah.
wish I could have had a nap. Glad I didn't. So, I just was trying to get to that next aid station.
When at all this throughout this entire, you were the lead female pretty much the whole time, right?
Aisha was ahead the first few miles.
Okay. Yeah.
I
But
can't remember. We shared like a mile or two together.
yeah, yeah.
She's like, yeah, I've done X amount of, I can't remember what she said. I think she said 5, maybe 6, 100 milers. I'm like, man, that's impressive. This is just my first.
Yeah. 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 I remember. Yeah. We shared her, she ended up running next to us at some point and then fell back and then came flying past us at one point. Like you could tell she was just a strong runner, but,
She was, when I saw her on when I passed her, going inbound at that, she was still going outbound, but she looks strong. I was like, wow, she looks incredible for that long into the
yeah,
race. Yeah.
it's interesting, those out and backs, because, you get to see, of course, we're all running, we're all encouraging each other, but you get to see your competition too. And you're like, oh man, she looks good. Like I got, there's, and I want to keep I mean, you're competing. And so, I don't know. Did you try to not look like you were struggling when you crossed her?
No, I was just trying to finish after a while.
Yeah.
I had a few goals for the race. I missed one of them, hit 2 of them, and I'm happy with that. After that turnaround, I'm like, I just want to finish. If I have to do run walk intervals, so be it. If I have to slow the pace by 20, 25 seconds, so be it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kept moving. You evidently, it looked like you had, just from what I saw at the race and then the pictures, all looked like you had some great pacers with you, both of your pacers to push you through.
Godsend. They helped me get through some of those long runs, and Mimi's trying to get to Boston, and Madison, or Spud is what we call her.
But I like it.
She had just gotten back from Tokyo. She had done the Tokyo Marathon, so that was the first time I'd seen her out on the course, and they both drove in from Missouri, and I cannot thank those girls enough for getting me there and just kind of keeping me sane. They really they really got me through.
Yeah. When you're in the lead, you're still pushing, you're trying to still finish you want to finish as fast as you can. Did you realize that you could have the state record? Did you realize that you were on, was that part of your calculations that, okay, the record is in grasp? I could do this.
Yeah. I mean, I had no doubt I could get it. That's just going off of what my training was. I felt really confident in getting it. I felt like it was kind of without a doubt I would get it, but that wasn't really the primary goal. It's just I wanted to go out there and do the best I could.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to finish 100 miles, say, I got those triple digits. I got the belt buckle.
Yeah. 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 The big old belt buckle.
Oh my gosh, the thing is so big.
I know. I was worried it wouldn't fit on my display shelf thing with my others, but it did fit. It's just you. I was like, I can't wear this. I guess I can, but
still sitting in a box somewhere up in the room.
Nice. Nice.
I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. Well, so, when I ran in 2018 and I was in the lead from, I guess, 40 on, and it's a weird feeling. Like, I don't know. How did you deal with, I know you said you were trying to do your best, but how did you deal with you're being chased? Because literally you're being chased. I mean, other people are trying to beat you, so how did that factor in? Because it's just a different dynamic when you're trying to chase somebody down or when you're being chased. did that mess with you at all, or you would just kind of just stayed focused on doing what you could?
No, I wasn't. It never really bothered me. I mean, I saw it, I knew what it was, I acknowledged it, and then I just kind of let it go. It was,
Well, it's good.
I just kind of zone in. I'm like, okay, if I can do this, we're gonna, I've got a marathon left. Know I can get there. It's just a marathon. It's easy. I run these things all the time. It's like nothing. It's like somebody's 5K.
Well, that I was good. We had this conversation with somebody who just got a marathon left, and I was like, other people, normal people would be like, "What?" Just a matter like, "What?" You know how ridiculous you guys sound, but there's something about when you're like, "Okay, I only have a marathon left,"
Oh, what's
and
that?
yeah,
Just
it's like, oh,
running.
that's right. There's something about it. And that's when we play those mind games, those half marathon. Oh, a 10K left, and then when you like it, when there's only a 5K left, it's like I'm home, I'm there.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of going back to what you said about being chased, I feel like, kind of if you dwell on that fear too much, it actually kind of messes with you physically because, the mind says to stop and go slower long before the body can actually, long before the body, will actually need to go slower. That's just my opinion and kind of what I
Yeah.
observed. But, a lot
Yeah.
of mine just, I had to quit looking at my watch. And I noticed when I quit looking at my watch, my paces and just went off of RPE, my paces just got better. It was just the stress of looking at my watch that was messing with me.
Yeah. So much of what we do, it's mind games. So when I ran it and I had somebody, I used that to keep me put like, it's like, all right, I'm doing pretty good. I'm way ahead of whatever. I could walk a little bit, but there's a guy back there. And I ended up finishing like an hour before him or something, but I just kind of used it to make me keep moving,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know. It just depends how you frame it, because you can let it destroy you, like, or,
Yeah.
and we just have to figure out what motivates us and how we can just keep moving and get the best performance out of ourselves. So, yeah.
Right. I just kind of, I channeled a lot is like, in those rest spots, I kind of channeled my training. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this in training. It kind of becomes, you kind of relive it and it becomes familiar. Just recognizing that you've been through that before just makes you want to keep pushing. So that was kind of what I dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's one of the reasons, we talk a lot about training. Yes, you have to train your body physically to be prepared to put that the mileage in and get your body ready so you don't destroy it and hurt yourself and all of that. But we're also training our minds to know that we can push through these. Like you said, I've been here before. I did it in training. I can keep pushing, and I don't have a stroller to push.
5K workouts throughout training. It's because that was the quickest thing to put me through that mental and physical simulation that I was going to experience at some point in time or multiple points in time during that race. So that actually helped.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's, and so when you get to that point, you just, yeah, okay, I've been here. Pain cave. Yeah.
I'm just going to deal with it the same way now. So nothing new.
Yeah, exactly. One of the thing, especially in out and back, there's the familiarity of when you kind of know, like, okay, I've been here, and when you hit an aid station that you've already hit, like, okay, I don't have to hit that one again, like, and then when you get to that last aid station and you got single digits left, it's I don't know, it's pretty exciting, exhilarating, and to know that, all right, I just got to get to the finish line now.
Just a little over a 10K left.
Just a little over a 10K left. How does your I don't know, did you get excited? Did you pick up the pace? Did you just keep doing what you were doing, for that last little bit?
So Mimi decided to jump in for that last section get me to the finish line. And she had the bright idea of turning on music. And I had not listened to music or anything that entire run. So her turning on that music just got me up and going.
What kind of music were you listening to? What was the song?
We ran into the finish line. It was Donald Trump by Mac Miller.
Nice, nice.
I didn't know that until last week, a few days ago. She's like, "You realize that's what we ran into the finish line?" Oh my gosh, what are the odds?
That's hilarious. That's so good. Well,
Oh,
there's something, and then just having run that course, and you've been out there too. When you get you know, when you start to see the lights of Ottawa, you see the
Yeah.
hotel, and then you get on the paved, you know, part. It's, you know, and I saw the pictures of you finishing, and there's, you know, I don't know, when you finally turn off of the pavement and you see the arch is right there, like you were going 15 hours and what is it, 15? They didn't post it on here yet. 15.
124. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You've been out there like, you know, all this time and you're about to be able to stop running. You know, I don't know what, I don't know how, explain the feeling there, you know, when you're running, when you finished.
It was, it was wild, you know, that last, I mean, I finished with 100.3 and like the last like 2 or 3 miles, I was negative splitting. So like, I think I hit 100 at 8:21 pace. And then like the little last
Nice.
100, I was at 7:46, but then I was just, we were sprinting to the end. I was just done. I want to be done.
Yeah, that's right.
I think my top pace at that point was like 6 something. Like when I ran in there looking at the Garmin data, but I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm ready. I'm done. The pictures are great. I think you collapsed into your pacer's arms.
I was just so happy. I was, you know, I was done. I'm like, we did this.
Yeah. And it's hard to, you know, like, it's not only that you accomplished the race that weekend, it's all the time you put in. It's all the training, it's all the stroller pushes, it's all the strength work. It's, you know, that race didn't start Saturday morning. That race started, you know, a couple months before when you were getting yourself ready for it. And so, yeah, it's the achievement of the actual race portion of it, but it's so much more. When you look at that big old buckle, you know, yeah, it's just a physical thing, but it's a reminder of what you did, you know.
Oh yeah, and you know, I would totally do that again. Less than 24 hours later, I'm like, yeah, I want to sign up for another one. I want to go beyond. I want to go do that again. That was such a great experience, and you know, I would totally do that again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were yeah, we were messaging back and forth. You were like, what we got? What, you know, what's out there? You know, what can we do? Which but it's true. Like you did great. I mean, so for those listening, if I hadn't said it, she's now got the female Kansas state record for 100 miles. And I think it's one that stood for quite a while. The previous one was there for 6 or 7 years. Is that right? Do I remember that right? I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll put a link to it in the show notes or whatever, because there's a list out there of it, and the years that it was done. But huge, you know, huge accomplishment, especially for your first 100 miler. And so I think you should be looking at other races to do and continue to test yourself and push. But I know, you know, so you did say that there were some things that you learned, which we always learn, even when we do really well. You did really well. What did you learn about this race that you can put into practice the next time you run a big race?
Better pacing, you know, just more consistent splits. I feel like if I slowed the pace a little bit, and you know, I would have been able to spend less time at the aid stations, a little more, you know, been able to move a little bit more efficiently there, and not feel trash here and there. But I mean, you
Yeah.
always feel trash at some point during an ultra like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that kind of stuck out. And I don't know, it was really just that one thing. I felt like everything other than that just kind of flowed. I had the best grid I ever had before. And, you know, we worked well together and they really got me through.
Nice. No, that's good. Yeah. And I know that's one of the things you said, something about your aid station times. And aid stations, I always tell, you know, when I'm coaching runners, it's a hard thing because you need to spend the time that you need to spend. Like if your shoes need changing, if you have an issue that you have to deal with, you've got to spend the time to deal with it to be efficient while you're running. Like if you got a big old, I don't know, blister rocking your shoe, whatever, you know, you got to deal with it. But especially, you know, if you spend an extra few minutes at every single one of those aid station stops, that adds up, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's to find that balance of being efficient, doing what you need to do. So, yeah.
Right. And a lot of that was just me being stuck in a mental rut. And, you know, if I had just taken a little bit less time and if I had just, you know, instead of sitting there, staying there, if I had just gotten up and walked for a couple minutes, you know, that would have easily made me a little more efficient. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's something I want to work on. But, you know, overall, pretty happy with the effort. You know, I didn't hit the time I had in mind, but, you know, I still proud of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, we made it work.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, and like you said, there's always, you always want to get better and improve. And so, you just take those things those little things and just put them into practice at the next one and see what you can do.
Right. For sure.
So we talked a little bit. Have you, I don't know, picked another race out yet? Or are you still kind of scouring the landscape and just trying to decide on when and which and all that?
I'm looking at a couple. I mean, I'd like to do a mountain race. For me, it just kind of comes down to finances because I stay home with the kids. My husband works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I can squeeze runs in, but it's just like, okay, can we travel out here? Can we afford that? Can we afford this? That said, I'm looking at Lean Horse 100 out in South Dakota, the Black Hills,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at Tunnel Hill. I do have
Yes.
Chicago in October, which I could probably use as a tune-up race for Tunnel Hill since it's like 2-3 weeks away from Tunnel Hill.
Yeah. Yep.
I might do that. We'll see.
Yeah. Tunnel
I mean,
Hills,
Tunnel Hill's like pancake flat compared to
flat
Prairie
and
Spirit.
fast.
Flat's me, but
Yeah. 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 No, that's a great race. And that'll, I don't know, kind of, it'll continue kind of with Prairie Spirit, the what you've trained for there and kind of build off of that. So that'd be a good one too. So it'd be fun to see what you do out there.
I want to do a mountain race though, kind of like what you were suggesting, the Mace. What was it, the Mace
Mace's
one?
Hideout. Yeah.
Yeah. That looks
Yeah.
really cool. But I'd probably need to change quite a few things though. It might be a little soon, but I don't know. Just with the nature of I mean, you've done these things.
Yeah.
Altitude and
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
trekking poles if I had to guess, which I've never
Yep.
used in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are things that, those are fun new challenges. And with us being flatlanders, you gotta figure it out and figure out how to train for it and deal with the altitude. Anyway, it's just a different challenge. Like I said, I love the mountains. I don't do nearly as well as the flat ones, but I love the challenge. I love being out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's one of my goals is to do a mountain race that's not crushed limestone or pavement. My knees are going to hate me. My knees are already hating me still, but we're working on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was glad to see you, train and get out there. And I was glad to see you achieve what, looking at your training, just knew you were capable of that. Nothing, because, injuries and things could happen, blow up, things happen. But I'm glad you had a fantastic race and seriously, like, congratulations. You should be proud of what you did. And, I'm a fan. Keep it up.
I'm still, I mean, I'm still a rookie at this 100 stuff. I took a gamble coaching myself on the running end and it paid off, the strength, having Cam program me for strength and kind of, I would send him my weekly run plan that I created and he would program my strength off of what I had planned. And, it was a lot of teamwork, and we got it done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it worked. It worked. You got it done. Well, I'll be looking forward to, let me know, shoot me a message when you seal the deal and sign up for the next one. And, cause I'll be following along and, probably see you at Prairie Spirit again, running something. I'm sure it's right there for you. Like you almost have to go back sometime, huh? Even tune-up training races.
Yeah. I mean, Jesselyn, who got the 50 K state record, her and I went out for a training run a couple weeks before the actual race and it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to run 100 miles on this. I hadn't been out there for a few years and yeah, just kind of refreshing the memory of the trail and stuff. And, we had a good time and oh my gosh, she did awesome.
Yeah, there were a few records that got crushed in
She ran
the weekend.
at a 6:46 pace. And I mean, I knew she was going to do it just because I'd seen what she'd done. And I mean, she's a beast.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's really impressive. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
She went through that 100-mile training as well. And, we were both kind of cheering each other on the last few months. And yeah. We both
That's
said,
cool.
we get the state records, we're going to go out and party, and we're going to grab beers, and we're going to go drink. So that was on my mind. I'm like, okay, she should be done now. She's got the state record. Then I need to keep my end of the bargain and just keep on going.
That's the deal. Got to do the deal. Well, Angela, thanks so much for spending time and jumping on the podcast, and look forward to, get out there and crush something else. We'll do it again.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll see one of these mountain races, and I'll just Prairie Spirit. I'll just let me know what you do, and go from there.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come on here, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. We'll see ya.